Welcome back to our channel, where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: Camilla in tears after Prince William makes a daring move to end her influence in the royal family. In an extraordinary power battle, Prince William has ousted Queen Camilla from the royal court, according to an insider source. Camilla's power struggle reignites tensions inside the palace. This clip elucidates the conflict between Camilla and Prince William. Sources from Buckingham Palace have disclosed that Prince William, the Prince of Wales, has formally removed Queen Camilla from the royal court, astonishing the British monarchy and Westminster. The decision, characterized by a senior staff member as the most consequential internal royal division since the abdication crisis ensued after the prince allegedly uncovered a scheme headed by the Queen to forge an alliance with a formidable political adversary. The abrupt departure concludes months of escalating tension, covert speculation, and a subdued but intense struggle for dominance inside the palace. A fundamental contention on the monarchy's future underpins the issue. An insider from the Prince of Wales said, "We are not merely discussing trivial disputes, providing a rare glimpse into royal perspectives." The prince asserts that we must confront the pressing challenges confronting the country, emphasizing the need for individuals to proactively address these difficulties. This was an internal assault on togetherness. Insiders report that Prince William was presented with compelling evidence of Queen Camilla's clandestine conversations, which sought to establish an alternative power structure to marginalize the heir. Sources assert that the treachery extends beyond political machinations and jeopardizes the monarchy and its succession. The world awaits the outcome of whether the Prince of Wales can endure the turmoil or whether the House of Windsor will disintegrate. "This will define the monarchy's future for a century," said a seasoned royal historian. William's decision was not just motivated by power, it was a matter of survival. Fortress of Shadows. Buckingham Palace has epitomized British stability and tradition for centuries. In recent months, its opulent corridors and grand state chambers have featured a Shakespearean drama. Within its boundaries, loyalty to the monarchy was diminishing, and secrets thrived in the encroaching darkness. As his duties expanded, Prince William saw a subtle but significant change in the palace's dynamics. According to several courtiers and staff, Queen Camilla instigated this commotion. Her once subservient demeanor inside the royal family has transformed into a commanding presence. The duo walked down the corridors with the calculated confidence of an experienced political strategist. William was attuned to the palace's delicate atmosphere and acknowledged that her acts were motivated by an objective beyond royal protocol. A long-standing aide expressed concern at a private briefing, stating, "She is making more progress than previously. It is a subtle consolidation of power, yet it is occurring." The court's informal currency rumors proliferated rapidly. Attendants carried trays down silent corridors, exchanging sporadic comments. The courtiers in the antechambers spoke softly. The words were sufficiently audible for their target audience, demonstrating carefulness. They discussed influence, emerging alliances, and the transfer of authority to the Queen's rooms. A courtier said individuals are starting to favor her. Certain individuals consider her distinct perspective captivating. These hidden rifts were most apparent in royal protocols. The gilded tableware at official banquets glimmered under many crystal fragments, but the guests' grins were forced and fragile. Queen Camilla's laughter, a consistent feature of such rituals, now echoed emptily across the hall. Prince William, an astute observer of human behavior, saw apprehension where confidence formerly resided on faces. "Her laughter appears contrived," said a diplomatic event attendee to their companion. "The auditory manifestation of an individual executing a job." Loyalty, once the cornerstone of his position, has become variable and vague. William's long-standing supporters, who had previously served his late grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, were unexpectedly aligning with Camilla during discussions. Their averted gazes and subtle shifts in stance betrayed them. William got apprehensive as the palace's intricate loyalty network was progressively reconfigured. "I am uncertain about whom to trust," the prince confided to a close friend over a weekend at Sandringham. He meticulously observed her actions because of this persistent mistrust. He saw a tendency. She had non-court circle discussions in her own chambers each evening after fulfilling public commitments. There she convened with a cadre of advisors that William had long regarded with suspicion due to their modernist, even Republican ideologies. He was apprehensive about their presence beside her and suspected they were devising an other plan. "She is establishing her own circle, a clandestine court," an aide said, validating his fears. The palace, characterized by its lofty ceilings and secured entrances, seemed more perilous. Instead, it transformed into a platform for a clandestine performance. In addition to illuminating the costly artworks on the walls, each colossal chandelier cast deeper, more foreboding shadows where secrets may thrive. William saw himself ensnared by a structure that was gradually inflicting harm upon him. "This house seems to be conspiring against me," he said to his wife, the Princess of Wales. These periods were plagued by his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. He recalled her solitary battles against the fortress, her betrayal, and her isolation as a tragic tale. Every calculated action taken by Camilla seems to resonate with past traumas, instilling in William a profound fear of history's recurrence. Contemplating his mother's legacy intensified his sense of duty, which characterized him. "My mother would not absolve me if I remained silent and permitted this to occur again," William said to a close friend. The tension extended beyond the apex. It infiltrated the kitchens and royal stables. Even the stoic royal gatekeepers, instructed to maintain an impassive demeanor, saw the alteration. "A perilous situation is approaching," one informed his colleague during a shift change. "It is palpable in the atmosphere. Public appearances, formerly well-orchestrated displays of unity, now exposed the underlying discord." William's eyes exhibited profound dissent as he stood beside Camilla on balconies and during formal occasions. The global media's extensive coverage and insatiable appetite for royal intrigue documented their remote connection. Despite forced smiles, the palpable, insurmountable chasm was evident. A tight-knit group of long-standing friends and loyal advisors cautioned William against underestimating the Queen. They reminded him that each of her movements was intentional. "Her actions are not arbitrary," one said strongly. "Each word and invitation she offers constitutes a component of a larger enigma. She comprehends her enterprise." In accordance with their instructions, William started charting her expanding influence. He enumerated her close group of advisors. He monitored the courtiers who changed allegiances. The pattern was concerning. She was meticulously constructing institutional power as never before. "She is preparing for something more significant," another assistant said ominously. Anger, betrayal, and accountability surged inside the prince. The palace ceased to provide security, only presenting potential conflict. He acknowledged that the covert war of attrition could not continue. He would need to take action when the confrontation erupted. William said, "I cannot permit her to obliterate what is left of this family with resolve. He will do every effort to expose her plot." Confidential strategy. Queen Camilla, who endured years of public examination and internal royal machinations, navigated with the finesse of a chess master. She had rehearsed in seclusion away from public scrutiny. She meticulously traversed the castle and arranged her clandestine meetings for the late hours. Prince William had several suspicions, however, he remained oblivious to her audacious scheme. He had an intense unease that intensified upon her vanishing from public sight. Camilla had clandestine meetings at Clarence House and her apartment at Buckingham Palace. Advisors selected for their loyalty to her rather than the crown conspired closely, murmuring strategies and aspirations. They conversed late into the night on topics unrelated to charitable endeavors and official engagements. The future of power influence and the monarchy was at risk. William felt the intricate web constricting around him as each notion contributed one additional strand. "She is constructing a scheme that will ensnare him," said one of his few trusted advisors. Her arrangement was intricate. She used disenchanted courtiers, media influencers, and formidable politicians she had cultivated over the years. She gradually drew them nearer by leveraging prior devotion and assuring future influence. William, deliberately excluded from this expanding group, saw the consequences. Former senior officials who reported to him exhibited hesitation, as if anticipating the Queen's endorsement. "She has them poised for her directive," said another. She radiated confidence at formal events, masking her clandestine interests. The population saw her as regal. William, now acutely observant, noticed the subtle cues and almost undetectable motion directed at a cabinet official amongst a crowded assembly, a brief but significant conversation with a media tycoon in a secluded area, and a cryptic glance exchanged with a confidant. Every hint revealed a well-orchestrated scheme, a covert accord among her confidants. "She behaves as though she already possesses the crown," said a lady-in-waiting. William urged his followers for information, eager for specifics. They delivered alarming news. Camilla has extended her influence outside the castle. Her network of links expanded as she sent encrypted messages and arranged clandestine meetings in Belgravia homes and Cotswolds farms. He was astonished to see that her ambitions beyond palace politics and included the whole British establishment. One of his intelligence sources said, "She is extending her influence daily." The most significant revelation was the identification of her principal co-conspirator. Lord Alastair Finch, a charismatic and fiercely ambitious aristocrat, almost as venerable as the Windsors, has consistently posed challenges to the royal family. The eloquent populist championed a radical modernization of British institutions, including the monarchy, which many saw as an anti-monarchist initiative. He was William's adversary in both intellectual and political realms. Camilla had clandestinely constructed a connection to him. William was most apprehensive about her subtlety, not via overt defiance, but by understated incremental actions that may be overlooked until it was too late. "She strides with intention, never by coincidence," said a courtier. Her layout expanded like to a clandestine garden. William saw some roots, but not all, while the deadly blooms were flourishing. She was consolidating personal and political authority. She acquired loyalty by providing them with prestige access and a compassionate listener. She meticulously extracted William's support. He informed his wife, Catherine, she is fully aware of how to captivate them. The castle seemed to be restructuring itself around her. Previously inaccessible opportunities become available to her. She conducted advantageous encounters. She assumed the authoritative voice in discussions that really belonged to the prince. William saw the subtle but discernible alterations. A senior advisor said, "She is positioning herself at the forefront of all matters." William's seething anger erupted. He persistently challenged Camilla, however she was an exceptional dodger. She would readily dismiss his concerns, asserting her obligation and loyalty to the king. "All my actions are undertaken for the benefit of the crown," she said fervently. William noticed the pretense. Her eyes exhibited fervent ambition. "Her words are never congruent with her actions," he said to a friend. Her idea was so substantial that it garnered the attention of remote workers. They carried trays in the halls and eavesdropped on questionable conversations. The palace attendants, serving as its eyes and ears, saw that something significant and dreadful was being constructed in secrecy. They were anxious as William traversed the corridors, having previously shown deference. A footman informed a maid, "She is orchestrating something more significant than we anticipate." William ultimately grasped the arrangement's dire extent. He saw her network evolve like to a complex puzzle. Camilla commanded the board with formidable precision, and each piece, be it a courtier, politician, or media figure, was perfectly aligned. "She is nearer to her objective than ever," a nocturnal aide warned him. William needed to ready himself for the conclusion. This trap was almost set. The grand halls seemed irrevocably divided. As he traversed the space between them, he felt his attention gravitating toward Camilla. The incremental alteration proved to be more detrimental. "She has already prepared the groundwork," said one of his limited acquaintances. "I refuse to allow her to ensnare me within my own residence," William said, his tone subdued but resolute. He vowed to himself that he would not assume the role of a passive victim in this narrative. He saw the arrangement evolve and would disclose it. Folder of betrayal. William harbored distrust incessantly, however it was not a tool for aggression. He sought irrefutable evidence that could not be disregarded as paranoia or jealousy. He silently traversed the castle for days, watching, listening, and anticipating the mistake he anticipated would occur. The breakthrough happened on a brisk Tuesday evening. A faithful servant to the prince reported that a locked bag usually stored in the Queen's secret study was left unattended in a small sitting room. The helper saw a leather-bound binder inside. William instinctively entered the room. The folder rested on a polished mahogany table, its red leather gleaming under the warm lamplight. It was intended just for Camilla. William grasped it with a shaking hand. It felt weighty. "This file is exceptional," he said, heart-thumping. Unveiled the cover. A whole coup strategy was sent in the transmission. He discovered printed versions of encrypted emails, comprehensive travel logs for secret meetings in Geneva and Paris, and most incriminatingly draft ideas for a Crown Advisory Council. The presence of Lord Alistair Finch's signature on the draft memos alongside Camilla's astonished him. These materials provided substantial evidence beyond just hearsay. Camilla engaged in strategic conversation with Finch for about a year. They orchestrated clandestine discussions and a unified strategy to undermine William. The details obscured as the prince flipped over the pages. Handwritten planning notes addressed the timing for the public introduction of new leadership principles. Psychological profiles of notable courtiers indicated their potential susceptibility to being swayed against William in exchange for future favor. The calculated and ruthless treachery was inscribed in black ink. "She wields loyalty as her weapon," said the reliable doorkeeper. The revelations persisted. A folder pocket had a roster of names. Advisors, elite employees, and even members of the royal family were included on the list, each designated with a coded symbol. A legend at the page's bottom elucidated the symbols swayed, approached, resistant, and target. Encountering familiar names of folks he had known and trusted throughout his life inflicted a deeper pain on William than any corporeal injury. "She has appropriated those nearest to you," a friend cautioned. He now has proof. The reality penetrated his chest. Camilla was integrating him into the monarchy, not only engaging with his opponent. Their objective was to create a constitutional crisis that would portray William as feeble and indecisive. Camilla and Lord Finch would consolidate and modernize, presenting the new Crown Advisory Council as the only alternative, seizing control of the crown and sidelining William. The net hidden for months was shown in disturbing detail. "Her intention is to leave you bereft," a wan aide murmured. William contacted a reliable officer from the Royal Protection Command to authenticate the proof. The stern officer disclosed information he had previously withheld until directly questioned by the prince. Confidential meetings occurred. Camilla welcomed Lord Finch by a discreet side entrance at night, when the palace was ostensibly at rest, away from the primary security and surveillance cameras. The officer had encountered Finch on 3 occasions. "Your suspicions regarding her were justified, sir," the guard said with a sense of remorse. "We ought to have arrived earlier." William needed that last devastating component. His blood seethed with fury, but his brain was exceptionally sharp. He gathered the documents' identities and first-hand testimonies. No more conjecture. This was the revealed trap. His perspective of the royal corridors transformed. With each step, he was reminded of the treachery beneath him. He saw that the palace, his residence and symbol of his family's heritage, had transformed into a battlefield where he was already surrounded. Each chandelier above and every gilded door ahead seemed like a confinement. "She has incited this household against you," said another follower. William sat alone in his study, the folder's contents spread over his desk late that night. Each statement was perused several times till it became embedded. He contemplated his mother's profound distress and systemic betrayal. The same blackness enveloped him, and he recognized the need to take action. "My mother would not absolve me if I remained inactive," he said in the silent room. Subsequent to acquiring this knowledge, he evaluated the court in the ensuing days. In public, he posed challenging inquiries and observed for responses, hesitations, and evasion. The reactions validated the veracity of the folder. Following Camilla's pervasive influence, Lord Finch's name was now uttered with inevitability in circles from which William was no longer accepted. "They regard him as though he is already a part of this place," William contemplated fiercely. The discovery weighed heavily upon him and influenced his character. No more obscurity or conjecture. He had facts and truth in his hands and heart. The trap was genuine, although it was revealed prior to its activation. William understood that the next action will dictate all outcomes. "She believed you would never encounter this," an assistant said plainly. "This can no longer be concealed." He rose from his desk, fortifying his determination. "The period for tranquility, scrutiny, and caution has ended." He refused to let Camilla and her accomplice to govern the crown. He gathered resources, established the facts, and focused his thoughts. The realization instilled in him the fortitude to advance. "I refuse to be the victim in her scheme," William said. Convergence of wills. William held the scarlet folder tightly to his chest, its stiff edges pushing against him as he navigated the palace's echoing halls. The culmination of each footfall on the smooth marble seemed to perturb the ancestral images adorning the walls. He had evidence. The truth was his. He was poised to face the traitor. He discovered her in the morning room, a spacious sitting space, with a view of the royal gardens, embellished with golden drapes draped over towering bulletproof windows. Camilla remained poised with a book on her lap, although her eyes illuminated at his entrance. William abstained from taking a seat. He loomed threateningly before her, grasping the folder under his arm. The atmosphere resembled a pre-storm low-pressure system. "I declare that this belongs to you," he said coldly. He maneuvered the parcel across the antique table in her direction. Travel itineraries and draft proposal materials spilled over the sides. She glanced at them briefly before relaxing with indifferent interest. A faint, icy grin momentarily graced her lips, although her gaze remained unperturbed. William examined her intently, first reluctant to divert his sight. "She cannot liberate herself from this predicament through verbal persuasion," said one of the two prudent footmen at the entrance. Camilla carefully opened the folder. After examining the pages, she closed the book as if its contents were inconsequential. "William, you seem remarkably stressed," she said patronizingly. "You need not preoccupy yourself with inconsequential state matters." William converted his rage into steadfast determination. Insignificant. He stated dismantling her facade. He informed her of her meeting, secure communications, and hazardous agreement with Lord Finch. "You have conspired with an individual determined to subvert the fundamental principles this family cherishes," he said accusatorily. Her response was polished, suggesting prior preparation. She characterized the writings as strategic discussions, innocuous what-if scenarios designed to assist the monarchy in navigating a shifting political environment. She saw his allegations as a mistake arising from his deficiency of knowledge. Nevertheless, William persisted. "He said, I have spoken with the guards who witnessed your secret meetings," his voice rising. "Those who witnessed your actions allowed my opponent to infiltrate this palace during the night. You cannot escape this responsibility." Camilla stopped smiling at hearing the words of the guards. William saw her raw, resolute determination mirrored in her eyes as she faltered. He saw that she would not accept responsibility, although her strained quiet said much. Leveraging his advantage, "You assumed I would never uncover this," he said, gesturing at the folder. "You thought I was overly preoccupied, too weak to recognize what you were devising in concealment." Her dignified demeanor resurfaced as she elegantly rose from her chair to her full height. Her remarks were suddenly hostile and cold. "The fact that others have sought my counsel is indicative of your evident inadequacy in leadership," she said. "You are too preoccupied with the past. The crown must adapt to survive, whilst you will not." William listened, his jaw tightened. "Loyalty cannot be obtained through fraudulent promises," he said. "Embracing the wolf does not guarantee survival. You deliberately sought to provoke hostility against me among relatives." Their cries intensified throughout the expansive auditorium as the argument progressed. Staff, enthralled by the extraordinary sound of a heated confrontation, lingered outside the door, eavesdropping with a mix of trepidation and intrigue. William instructed her to terminate all associations with Lord Finch immediately. Camilla declined. "That is no longer a viable option," she said unsettlingly composed. "Connections have been established. Open doors cannot be closed." William placed both hands on the table, his face just inches from hers. "Any alliance based on deceit can be dissolved," he said. "All your intentions may be obstructed. Truth elucidates. Shadows become impassable when exposed to light." The atmosphere was fraught with tension as their comments cut like knives. The onlookers were astounded, having never seen such a blatant and public altercation between two of the royal family's most senior members. William's determination strengthened with each of her refusals, whilst Camilla's well-constructed facade crumbled progressively. A servant said, "He has ultimately ensnared her." William left the table and moved toward the door. "The period of obfuscation has ended," he said with authority. "Your intentions were disclosed. Decline them to me, but not the evidence. Your power will be limited in this house." He left the room without looking back, his heart racing, but his actions deliberate. Camilla positioned herself at the table, her hands pressing against the treacherous red folder. The disagreement was no longer suppressed. It had emerged into the open and would only decline. Resolution. A rudimentary debate would be ineffective when William returned to his private study still agitated from the incident. Words were insufficient to dismantle Camilla's complex web. He must act immediately, otherwise her poison will persist in spreading throughout the kingdom. It was imperative to take decisive action, irrespective of constitutional and family repercussions. He laid the incriminating documents over his desk one last time, each one evidencing her deliberate betrayal. He had located every component of the puzzle and would achieve checkmate against her. He summoned his most steadfast counsel, the select handful he recognized as unchanged. He asserted the truth as a fact substantiated by the facts. Both expressions hardened as they comprehended Camilla's whole strategy. William's words shattered their astonished hush. "I shall not permit this to persist," he said. "She made a decision. Now I will create my own. We stand with you, sir," a senior private secretary said, his tone resolute. "This should have been accomplished much earlier." William rose from his chair, resolute. He left the documents on the desk as an indication of his altered reality. He re-entered the castle with deliberate but assured steps. He declined to revisit the topic. He ascended to power. Camilla was in the same room, gazing at the manicured gardens through the window. She pivoted at his entrance, exhibiting both defiance and trepidation. William eschewed trivial conversation. He pronounced his judgment from the center of the room with the authority of the future monarch. He started with accuracy and decorum. "By the authority conferred upon me as Prince of Wales and successor to the throne, and with the complete awareness of the king, your official responsibilities are hereby suspended. You will cease attending Privy Council meetings, engaging with the daily red boxes, or representing the crown at formal events. You are essentially banished from the royal court." The last words resonated in the atmosphere, impactful. Camilla parted her lips, her expression hardening with fury. "You possess no authority," she hissed, advancing toward him. "You are dismantling this family due of your insecurities," William said, on the contrary, in a composed tone. "I am excising its lethal carcinoma. You inflicted pain against this family. You who constructed a deceitful throne. You who introduced our adversaries into these sacred chambers." He was indifferent to her rage. He chose his route. Camilla tried to regain authority. Her supporters would not endure it, and the public would see him as a tyrant. "You will lament this," she hissed. "A day will arrive when you will implore for my alliances." "I have no use for your traps," William said icily. "Your games lack utility. Your presence is departing from this court, and no words you utter will alter that fact." Two of the king's sentinels entered the room as scheduled. The warriors of William's father indicated the king's endorsement of this action. They took positions near the entryway, their boots resonating on the parquet floor. Camilla paled at discovering that the decision was approved. Not a threat, but an execution of punishment. "These gentlemen will guide you to your private quarters," William informed her. "Your access to the official wings of the palace is now cancelled immediately." Camilla's voice erupted in astonishment and fury. She charged him with cruelty, disrespect, and the degradation of the monarchy for the sake of pride. William maintained his silence, gazing at her. "The crown is not yours to manipulate," he said, firm and subdued. "The court is intended for faithful servants, not for nefarious conspirators. Your dominion over this institution has ended." A guard advanced, courteous but assertive. "Your Majesty, kindly accompany us." She glared at William with malice foreshadowing a protracted fight. However, she read in his eyes that this conflict was futile. Following her defeat, she became rigid and let the soldiers to escort her out the room. The enormous doors crashing shut behind her echoed down the hall like a last strike. The atmosphere seemed more buoyant, as if a tempest had subsided after intervals of oppressive strain. William stood alone in the middle of the floor, his shoulders burdened by his actions, but his spirit was steadfast for the first time in months. He acquired dominance. He anticipated consequences. He understood that Camilla would not go easily. He had assumed the necessary risk. He removed her from power. For the first time in a considerable period, the crown once again dominated the court rather than a rebellious queen. "I have finally assumed control," he said to the vacant chamber. The conflict persisted, although a new chapter started. Thereafter, the crown would adhere to his stipulations. The resolution was irrevocable, and there was no possibility of reversal. He was now required to pursue this line of action. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.